The Atlanta Braves received some unfortunate news on Monday as Sean Murphy will miss the beginning of the season. However, it could open up the door for Drake Baldwin to get some playing time early on. We'll discuss all of that on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at ShortstopBall. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves. Follow us on Instagram at Locked On Braves. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Appreciate all support that you give me here at Locked On Braves. You're listening on the audio-only version. You can help out by leaving me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And again, thanks so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. On today's podcast, we're going to be talking about the Sean Murphy injury news, as well as what that could mean for Drake Baldwin. Is he going to get an opportunity early on? Should he get an opportunity early on? I'll answer that question on today's episode. We'll also got a lot to cover from the games over the weekend. Spencer Schwellenbach with another outstanding outing. AJ Smith-Shawver kind of up and down on Monday. We'll get into all of that. And the Braves sign a reliever in Hector Neris. So a lot to cover on today's episode of Locked On Braves. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Well, I had a podcast all planned and prepped for Monday night, and then we got the Sean Murphy news on Monday morning. And look, at the end of the day, it doesn't sound like the scariest thing in the world for Sean Murphy. I mean, I've never taken 95 to the ribs, but could be a lot worse. And it happened early enough in spring training that he shouldn't miss a lot of time in the regular season. I know some of you, and I've seen the comments, a lot of you are hoping that he does. I am not in that group. I'm very excited about the season for Sean Murphy and still am, but it's also just unfortunate that a guy coming off an injury-filled season where he never got on track, and now he's starting the 2025 year hurt as well. And I may have buried the lead here, but Sean Murphy expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a cracked rib. So again, not great, certainly very uncomfortable for him, but something you can come back from and come back from rather quickly. And we should know more by the end of spring training as far as how he is progressing and what the actual timeline is for him. But he did. He took 95 miles per hour to the ribs last Friday. Obviously didn't feel great. And so it turns out that he did crack a rib in that and is going to miss some time. And I know a lot of the focus is on Drake Baldwin, and we're going to talk a lot about Drake Baldwin, but I don't want to push Sean Murphy off to the side. As you know, you've been listening to me all off season. I was very excited about Sean Murphy's upcoming season and a chance for him to get the everyday role. He's not going to have to split duties with Travis d'Arnaud. It's going to be his job and his opportunity to seize what the Braves traded him to do, and that is to be an everyday catcher who catches 120 games or more. And I was excited to see Sean Murphy be healthy and get that chance. And it's just, look, out of his control. He gets hit by a pitch and cracks a rib. It's got to be very frustrating for Sean Murphy. I feel for Sean Murphy. You know, he wants to get out there and prove that he is the catcher that the Braves traded for and that he can be that guy. And it's just setback after setback, one thing after another. I don't think he's injury prone. Look, the swing is violent. And I think that led to the issue that he had last year in his side. That is something that is partly because of his violent swing that he has. This is just sure bad luck. I mean, getting hit by a pitch, there's not really anything you can do for that. Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, both getting injured on hit by pitches last year. So it's something outside of his control. I think the people out there that really want to be hard on Murphy, there's been a lot of bad comments about Sean Murphy because of what happened today. Nothing he could really do about this. And if you don't like Sean Murphy, you're upset about the trade, you want to see Drake Baldwin because he's the new shiny toy. I get that, but please don't be one of those people out there taking shots at Sean Murphy. He wants to do his best. This was out of his control. I'm a believer in Sean Murphy. I think he can get back to being a top 5, top 10 catcher once again. And like I said, Still not expected to miss a lot of time here. 4 to 6 weeks, best case scenario, he's back for the homestand. The worst case scenario, he's back third, fourth week of the season. So it's not expected that he's going to miss a lot of time with this. But again, we'll know once he starts ramping up activities. We should see that at the end of spring training. It'll give us a good indication of where he is. But here's the thing that concerns me. He only got 6 at-bats in spring training before getting injured. And he was over 6 with 3 strikeouts. Now, I'm not putting much into spring training results there, especially for a veteran who already has a job locked up. But he's going to need more than that. Is he able to get back to a point where he can get some more spring training games under his belt? Does he have to go out on a rehab assignment in Gwinnett before coming back? How much time does he need once healthy now to get up to speed? How far behind is he going to be? And that's something we won't really know until later in spring training. But again, we should have a pretty clear picture of that by the end of spring training. If he's swinging a bat, or like I said, if he is able to get back and play some games, that'll give us a better indication. But he didn't have a lot going for him last year. Obviously, came into spring training, only got 6 at bats before getting injured this year. Braves may want to give him a little bit more time to ramp back up. I think that was part of the problem last year, is missed 2 months and then you throw him back into the fire and he just never really got on track. So especially if whoever they're going to call up to replace him, which we'll talk about here in a second, I promise, if they're doing well, maybe give Sean Murphy a little bit more time. Maybe allow him to continue to rehab at Gwinnett and get fully up to speed before bringing him back up. He's still has to catch back-to-back games, something he hadn't done in spring training yet. That's usually one of the biggest hurdles for catchers in spring training, being able to catch back-to-back games. We know he can do it, but just, getting that endurance up at the beginning of the season. So that we're going to want to see him do that at some point, but he's not expected to miss a lot of time. However, it does open up the door for Drake Baldwin. We've been talking a lot. How do you get Drake Baldwin at bats? And it was going to take an injury either to Sean Murphy or Marcell Ozuna, but I did feel like he was going to be the next man called upon. It's not official. We don't know that yet, but it is an opportunity to get Drake Baldwin's bat in the lineup and see what he can do. My initial thoughts on this, when I heard the news and heard that it was 4 to 6 weeks, Sean Murphy likely only to miss the first week or two of the season. My initial thought was, okay, don't push Drake Baldwin up for just 1 or 2 weeks. Just allow Chadwick Tromp and either Sandy Leon or Kirk Casale to hold down the role for the first 2 weeks of the season, if you think Sean Murphy is going to be back, relatively quickly. That was my initial thought when I heard the news. But I think Mark Bowman makes a good point that if they were going to go with Leon or Casale and it's just a week or two, then you have to put those guys through waivers to take them off the active roster, which means you could lose one of them, whichever one that you would bring up. And that kind of limits your depth at the catcher position. While if you bring up Drake Baldwin, you can just option him back and you don't have to worry about DFAing him and putting him through waivers. Kirk Casale can refuse a minor league assignment anyway, as he is an XXB free agent. This from Lindsey Crosby as well, that points out the best move for depth might be to use Casale for the first 2 weeks and put Leon and Baldwin at AAA, since you might lose Casale anyway as an XXB free agent. If he thinks there's an opportunity for him somewhere else, then you go ahead and just use that depth. And when you need to bring Sean Murphy back, you just let him go, because there's a chance that if he's not on the roster anyway to begin the season, that he might just choose to become a free agent again. However, let's think fun and let's be excited and let's go with Drake Baldwin. And that's ultimately where I came to, because here is my thinking. If you felt pretty confident that you were going to call up Drake Baldwin at some point this year, why not just go ahead and use him now? If you were going to use his option at some point this year to call him up, why not go ahead and just do it now? That way you can get a glimpse of Drake Baldwin and what he could be, what his potential is. Yes, it'll most likely only be a 5 to 10 game sample size, not a lot, but you at least allow him to get his feet wet, similar to what you did with Nacho Alvarez last year. You could do the same with Drake Baldwin and get a 2-3 week preview of what he could look like at the big league level, should you need to call on him later in the year for a more permanent spot, or if he just forces his hand and you got to find a way to get his bat in the lineup. So that's ultimately where I came around on it. Why not? The guy has proven everything I think he needs to at the minor league level offensively. You hear nothing but good things in camp about him as a catcher behind the plate. it seems like he's ready. I mean, when's the last time we've had as much hype about a position player prospect? Uh, I can't think of one, in the last couple of years. Maybe going back to Michael Harris, I guess, was the last position player prospect that you really had this much hype on in spring training. He's had a pretty good showing early on. Give him the chance, and let's just see what you have in him in case you do want to go to him later in the year, in case Sean Murphy does get hurt again and miss significant time, or Marcell Ozuna. You at least have a little bit of idea if he can handle major league pitching. So that's what I would do if I were the Braves. I think the biggest thing here, and where I have been hesitant in the past with giving Drake Baldwin the chance, is the defense. And the Atlanta Braves prioritize defense behind the plate over everything. It's why we have Sean Murphy and we don't have William Contreras right now, because they didn't think William Contreras could cut it as a defensive catcher, and Sean Murphy is one of the best in the game. So you know how much they prioritize defense behind the plate. But everything we've heard about Drake Baldwin is that he's got a strong arm. He frames really well. Had a quote from Ronaldo Lopez talking about how well he's been doing framing pitches. Everything we've heard says that he has made a lot of strides behind the plate and is an above average defender at catcher. So, it's time to see if that was just lip service or is that legitimately who Drake Baldwin is. So I think it's time. Give him the chance. This is the opportunity to get a glimpse of what he can be. It's unfortunate. You all know I was very excited about this season for Sean Murphy and still am. But you got another year now where Sean Murphy, with things were getting off to a bit of a rocky start. But it does also add a layer of excitement to the start of the season as well. If you do go with Drake Baldwin, of course, everybody's going to be excited about an opening day and the start of the season. But then you put your top prospect in there as well. And there's going to be a little added excitement for the clubhouse, for fans, and it could be a lot of fun. So I hope they do it. I hope they give Drake Baldwin a little bit of a test run here. Obviously, he's got to prove it in spring training and show the team that he can hold down position behind the plate. And we could see, a couple of weeks of Drake Baldwin to begin the year. But let me know what you think. Do you think the Braves should go with him? I already know what you're going to say, but let me know anyway. I guess let me know if you don't think the Braves should go with Drake Baldwin. Do you think they should go with a Kurt Casale or a Sandy Leon, who's had a pretty good spring training himself already to start the year until Sean Murphy is back? Let me know in the comments section down below. All right, next we'll get into the games happened over the weekend, spring training games, as well as Monday's action. And MLB Pipeline put out their new top 30. And the guy at the top, the guy we just talked about, and Drake Baldwin. We'll discuss all that here next. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets through the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. And maybe go out and check out FanDuel.com and see what the Rookie of the Year odds are. Maybe Drake Baldwin's going to move up in those odds number a little bit with this news. Again, not like he's going to get significant playing time, but you can see all those over at FanDuel.com. Also, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/playsafe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. Make everyone want more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Well, thanks as always for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen. We're solely keeping you updated with all the injuries happening around Major League Baseball. It's not just the Braves. There's injury news happening in a lot of other camps as well. You can check that out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And we'll be back with more action this week here on Locked On Braves. 4 more episodes coming your way, so make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves. Before we get into the spring training highlights from over the weekend and on Monday, MLB Pipeline did release their top 30 prospects list. Drake Baldwin at the top, followed by Caminiti, AJ Smith-Shawver, Hurston Waldrop, and Nacho Alvarez. For the top 5, not surprised to see them put Baldwin at the top again with all of the hype that he's gotten this offseason. I still have AJ Smith-Shawver at this top, but again, I do my rankings a little bit differently. I do it based on upside, and these rankings from MLB Pipeline seem to be more safe, going with floors, because I think the ceiling for AJ Smith-Shawver, Waldrop, and honestly some others behind Caminiti have bigger upsides, but Caminiti seems to have a safer floor. I'd put Caminiti kind of in the same boat as an Owen Murphy or a J.R. Ritchie. I think they all have pretty safe floors as number 3s, number 4 starters with maybe some number 2 upside in there. But AJ Smith-Shawver, if he puts it all together, a number 1, number 2 type of starter. Even Hurston Waldrop, as down as I've been on him this offseason, if he were to put it all together, it's top of the rotation potential. And then they have Nacho at 5, which is kind of surprising to me. I think we do forget he is young, but it just feels like we've been waiting on that power potential to come for Nacho Alvarez for quite a while. It seems like he's transitioning to third base where you're going to need that power. I mean, at least be a 20-plus home run bat for either third base or second base, really. And so I've kind of been sour is not the right word. I still think Nacho's a good player, but I think he's becoming more of a utility, super utility type of player. Maybe gets a couple of years as an everyday player rather than him being a solid fixture as an everyday player for a while. But they have him ranked 5th, followed by Drew Hackenberg, Owen Murphy, J.R. Ritchie, Garrett Baldwin. They are in on the Garrett Baldwin hype train. That's about where I had him as well. I think he's somebody that could really move up a lot of charts this upcoming season. And then they have Jose Perdomo rounding out the top 10, followed by Lucas Braun, Didier Fuentes. They're also onto the Didier Fuentes hype. They got him ranked pretty high, followed by young Carlos Lara. Luis Hill, they have him ahead of some of the other bats like Luis Guanipa, who they have right now after him, and Diego Torrens, who they just signed. That's a bit surprising. Hill's been really good at the rookie level, struggled a little bit coming over to full season ball, playing at Augusta at the end of last year. But he's a bat I told you about last offseason, actually. The bat we talked about in our preseason rankings is somebody who could shoot up. And again, he had a good year at rookie ball, struggled a little bit at Augusta, but still a bat in the system that many people are sleeping on. But they seem to be pretty excited about him, so that's good to hear. Burt Coulter in there as well at 16, followed by Torrens, as I mentioned, at 17, and then Carter Holton. That, to me, kind of finishes up the group of what I would consider really solid prospects. After that, I feel like it's a drop-off. They do have Rowdy Reyes at 27, big flamethrower the Braves just signed, and they have Carlos D. Rodriguez at 30, which is interesting because the Braves just kind of picked him up, and he's their 30th ranked overall prospect. Now he's in camp for the Braves at the moment. So that is the MLB Pipeline's top 30. You want to go check that out. Nothing too crazy there, but thought I'd go ahead and deliver that message to you on what is our Minors Monday segment. Highlights from the weekend. Last Friday, we didn't talk about it during our mailbag podcast, but Ian Anderson threw 3 scoreless innings with 2 walks, no strikeouts. So a good outing for him. And Grant Holmes followed him up with 3 scoreless innings with 2 walks and 3 strikeouts. Neither allowed a hit, 6 no-hit innings combined for Ian Anderson and Grant Holmes. Nick Allen went 2 for 3 in that game with a walk. Drake Baldwin went 3 for 4 with a couple of pokes the other way. One off Sandy Alcantara, who was in there just throwing 100 miles per hour. So some impressive swings, some impressive hits from Drake Baldwin. It's something I meant to talk about on Friday's mailbag podcast. We just didn't get to it with all the great questions that we had. One thing I said about Drake Baldwin coming into camp that I wanted to see is I wanted to see that power potential. Not even potential. We know the power is there. I just want to see it. But even more impressively, what we've seen from him is the opposite field approach, and for him to be able to just shoot a ball the other way. You want to paint, the outside corner with 99 and just going to shoot it the other way for a hit. And that's been nice to see from Drake Baldwin. On Saturday, Brian De La Cruz went 2 for 2. Dylan Covey, I talked about, he threw 2 scoreless innings. You want to talk about surprises? I got asked on the mailbag podcast on Friday if anything surprised me so far. And I said nothing really has, but Covey's looked really good to me in his few outings that he's had. Buck Farmer struck out the side on Saturday, a little bit of rough outing on Monday. On Sunday's game, Allen in there again at shortstop, went 1 for 3. Riley was 2 for 2. He and Olsen went back-to-back. Baldwin started at catcher in that game, went 0 for 3. Jared Kelnick hit a home run on a slider that was middle down, but it was good on him. He kind of waited it. It started outside the zone and then dove down in the zone and then below the zone. He went down and got it and golfed it out to right center for a home run. So that was a good swing by him. Ronaldo didn't quite get through 2 innings, giving up a hit and 2 walks. Schwellenbach followed him up, and he continued to look amazing with 3 strikeouts, no walks, and 1 hit in 3 innings. Daysbel had his best outing of the spring so far on Sunday, striking out 2 in 1 perfect inning. And then wrapping things up on Monday, AJ Smith-Shawver didn't look quite as sharp, only got 2 outs in the first inning on 25 pitches. They had to remove him. He came out for the second, looked much better, but again, going against the bottom of the Rays spring training order. And then did go back out for the third, only recorded 1 out, then gave up a hit. So he only got 6 outs on 45 pitches. Not an efficient outing for him. That's something else we need to see from AJ Smith-Shawver is, not just the ability to throw strikes and fill up the zone, but to be more efficient so the Braves can trust him to go deeper into games. I don't know that they want to give him an opportunity if he's consistently going to be going 4+ 5 innings. So he's got to be more efficient with his pitches. He did get 3 strikeouts. 2 of them were on Eloy Jimenez, who had a bit of a rough day, struck out swinging and looking to AJ Smith-Shawver. The curveball looked pretty good, especially in that second inning. He threw some good ones. And you never know in spring training what pitchers are working on. But I just thought it was kind of a shaky outing for AJ Smith-Shawver. Not a ton of hard contact. He did leave a couple of fastballs belt high. They got absolutely, punished, but was able to at least keep the ball in the yard. Buck Farmer, as I mentioned, just a disastrous outing. A couple things didn't go his way. A double play I thought should have been turned. A bit of a low throw to Ozzie at second, and then we know Ozzie doesn't have the strongest of arm. I actually thought the guy was out at first glance, but they called him safe. No replay in spring training, obviously. And then he had a ball that just went down the first base line. It stayed on the chalk, and then kicked a left at the last second and hit the first base bag. So a rough outing for Buck Farmer. The most impressive outing of the day for any pitcher on Monday was Enil De Los Santos, who struck out the side in the 6th inning. Yes, the starters had come out at that point, but he was just pumping fastballs in there and blowing them by hitters. He looked really impressive. Anderson PR wasn't able to get through his 2nd inning. He did look really solid in his first one, but he's a guy they want to be able to get those multiple innings from, or at least an inning in a 3rd inning and 2/3, kind of bridge that gap, but wasn't able to get through that 2nd inning. Jake Marisnick homered in this one. And Christian Cairo, we talked a lot about Nick Allen, but Christian Cairo, who's also battling for that bench spot, he was 2 for 2 with the stolen base, and he has had a pretty nice spring as well. So both Cairo and Allen fighting for that utility bench spot, having pretty good spring training. So we'll see how that battle unfolds. So a lot of news from over the weekend, a lot of good stuff from Braves spring training action. This was a pretty rough game for the pitching staff that's been really good so far. And again, they only gave up 5 runs. They actually got walked off. The offense came back and tied it up in the top of the 9th inning. And Domingo Gonzalez, he going out for a 2nd inning. He got 2 outs in the 8th inning, sent him back out there for the 9th. He gave up a double and a single, and the Rays walked the Braves off in this one. But again, I know it's spring training, but they've been playing pretty good. And the pitching's looked really well. You finally got to see the offense kind of get going in that game on Sunday against the Yankees. And then even in this game, I thought it looked pretty good early on. So seeing a lot of good things in camp for the Atlanta Braves. We are not done with the big news to talk about. We got Hector Neris signing. I mean, this guy was one of the best relievers in baseball just 2 years ago. The Braves get him on a minor league deal. We'll discuss that here next. So we've been looking for the Atlanta Braves to add to the bullpen, and they signed Hector Neris to a minor league deal. Braves fans should be pretty familiar with Hector Neris. Was with the Phillies for a while, had some big hits against Hector Neris with the Phillies. But he had a 1.71 ERA and a 1.05 whip just 2 years ago. In 2023, when offense was out of control, he had a 1.71 ERA and a 1.05 whip with 77 strikeouts and 68 in the 3rd innings. Last year with the Cubs, he had a 4.10 ERA and a 1.41 whip. Still had over a strikeout in innings 64 and 59 in the 3rd innings, and picked up 18 saves. So not a great year, certainly. Probably a little bit of course correction from the year before that. Even if he goes back, though, to his 2021, 2022 numbers where he was a high 3 ERAs type of pitcher, still a low whip between 1 and 1.1. It could be a huge pickup for the Atlanta Braves. He's also got over 100 career saves, a lot of experience there. And that splitter is still really good. It's been his effective pitch that has allowed him to last to age 35 in the big league level. And even last year, in a down season, a 37% whip rate on that splitter and a 205 expected batting average. Now, that's worse than where those numbers have been in the past, where it's traditionally been a whip rate over 40% on that splitter and an XBA in around the 150s, but still really good and really effective. He also threw the splitter a lot more last year. I don't know if that had something to do with it. I mean, he's thrown the splitter that much before in the past, but it was over 40% of the time that he threw the splitter last year. I mean, you see if the Braves mix that up a little bit more, have him throw that fastball, which is more kind of low 90-ish. But that splitter obviously is what's going to carry him. Like I mentioned, a 35-year-old righty. He's going to be in real competition for that final bullpen spot along with Buck Farmer and others. But I think he's right there in the mix for it, depending on how he looks in camp. With the veteran that he is, the experience that he has, I think it's a very solid pickup for the Atlanta Braves. If they're not going to go out and spend actual money to get, a David Robertson, getting somebody like a Hector Neris, who, like I said, has been really good over the last several years, and be able to get him on a minor league deal, bring him in here, I think that's a good signing for the Atlanta Braves. Braves continue to make some cuts in camp. They reassigned Eddie Alvarez, Chad Kuhl, Chasen Shreve, Jordan Weems, and Adam Zabrowski to minor league camp. So they had 48 players left in camp, although that was before the Hector Neris signing. So they might have 49 players in camp now. Who knows? Chad Kuhl, interesting one for me. I thought he looked pretty good in spring training. Chasen Shreve as well, I thought looked really good. Jordan Weems was a guy I thought might get that final bullpen spot until they signed Buck Farmer. And obviously now with Hector Neris, I think both of those guys would jump him in that conversation. Haven't heard any update on Nacho Alvarez since his wrist injury the other day. Hopefully nothing major there. We'll see him back in a lineup soon. And then some Major League Baseball news. The guy that I've been wanting the Braves to sign most of the offseason, not because I think he's going to have a great year or anything, just for some depth, is Jose Quintana. But the Braves didn't get him. The Brewers got him. So he's going to Milwaukee. Haven't heard the specifics of that deal yet. Can't imagine it's going to be for too much money, but do hate to see him kind of get away to another team. A little bit of news here. Adam Duvall seeking $3 million plus in free agency. And good luck for that. He got $3 million from the Braves last year. It wasn't exactly a great year. Love Adam Duvall. Nothing against him at all, but I think his days in Atlanta are done. But that's the news of the day. Again, a lot going on. A busy Monday, a busy weekend for the Atlanta Braves. But bringing it all back to the Sean Murphy news, again, I'm excited to see what Drake Baldwin can do. Even as somebody that's been a little bit critical of Drake Baldwin in the past, I understand the potential that is there with him and what he could be and what he might bring to this team. But I'm also just very saddened for Sean Murphy. And again, I say saddened. He might only miss 2 weeks of the regular season, and he might go on to still catch 115 games this year and have the year that I'm hoping he can. But it's beyond frustrating as me as a fan, and I'm sure as Sean Murphy, who is really hoping to go in this year healthy and prove that he's that everyday catcher for the Braves. And now he's going to be starting the year injured. But again, I can't wait to see, hopefully, Drake Baldwin, if the Braves do give him that opportunity. And I think they should. I think they will. But I can't wait to see, what that's going to look like or when that's going to be. Obviously, a very exciting prospect. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Brian Willis, glad I made it. Keep missing the live. Thank you for joining here. Brian, Jeff Berry in here. Carl Hopper. Sean Murphy needs a fresh start at a new team. Maybe. I just don't know what that looks like. I don't know. I mean, we don't really need to go down this road right now, but obviously the conversation is there. Say Drake Baldwin comes up. Like, if he comes up, he's only going to get 2 or 3 weeks. That's not enough of a sample size to say, okay, I'm going to trade Sean Murphy, the guy that we traded for, gave the extension, the guy that's been there, done that. Regardless of what you want to say about the last year and a half, since coming into the big leagues, he's been one of the better catchers in all of baseball. I don't think seeing Drake Baldwin, succeed at the big league level for 2-3 weeks, whatever it might be, is enough to say, okay, we're going to pivot, give up on Sean Murphy, and hand the reins over to a rookie catcher. It's just not going to happen. Now, if Sean Murphy just has another year, he does come back healthy, he catches 115 games, and it's a 90 WRC plus, and the defense doesn't look as stellar as they thought it would, which it's hard to imagine that happening. And Drake Baldwin just continues to crush it at AAA, and he's just forcing the Braves' hand. Maybe in the offseason, you could think about doing that. It's hard to see that happening. I think most likely is that they just don't bring Ozuna back, and you find a way to get Drake Baldwin in the DH spot and fill in at catcher once or twice a week, and that's how you get his bat in the lineup, and you have him and Sean Murphy next year. If I had to guess now, which is what I'm doing, I think that would be the way that the Braves are going to go. Bill Whittingham, thanks so much for joining here today. Nick Kirkavella, sorry if I get that wrong. Tim Pano, did the Braves win? No, they got walked off today, but it was a good comeback late. They've been having really good showings in spring training. I know the results don't mean anything, but still nice to win. If you're going to play the game, might as well try to win. Antonio Lopez, bring Sandy and Trump and send down Baldwin for more reps. So there is somebody that wants to see Drake Baldwin. I'm assuming, Antonio, you're saying to send Baldwin down to get Sandy some reps, which Sandy's been good. And look, if it happens, I'll be a little disappointed just because I want to see what Drake Baldwin can do at the big league level, but I would understand it. I'd understand the decision-making in it, but again, we'll see, and we'll know more once we get closer to the end of spring training. Miguel Faria, Todd Twilly, Murphy going to be gone by the trade deadline. That's a bold prediction. I would not take that. Jeff Barry, I feel like the Duvall ship has sailed. Yeah, Lynn, great guy. Love the time. Everybody's going to remember that grand slam in the World Series, and I'm also going to remember we didn't win that game. But from those who were there, I've heard is one of the better atmospheres, better moments ever, especially in Truist Park history. So we'll always have that with Adam Duvall. But yeah, I think his playing days might even be done. I don't know that anybody's going to give him a major league deal. And if he doesn't want to take a minor league deal and he's wanting $3 million plus, his career might just be done. Nick says, did you read the story of Greg Maddux using the potty on Chipper in the shower? Yes, I've heard that. I need to go and watch that documentary yet. I still haven't watched it. The documentary, I think it was on MLB Network, of Greg Maddux. Seen a lot of clips from it, but apparently it was a really good documentary. If you haven't checked that out, I haven't and need to. Thank you all for joining me today. Good discussion, good conversation. Again, let's keep the comments kind towards Sean Murphy. If you don't like him and make your reasoning in your case for that, that's certainly fine. But there's no need to slander a guy who, is trying to do his best. I promise you, he wants to be out there. He wants to perform and live up to the contract that the Braves signed him to. It's just, unfortunately, injuries keep derailing that for him. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new. Hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down below. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen. Follow us on social media at ShortstopBall, at LockedOn_Braves on X, and at Locked On Braves on Instagram. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.